and welcome back to another episode of the Crazy Stupid Marketing Show, the show where we talk about all the crazy stupid stuff that people do in marketing and how you can not do that, but instead do things that match your brand, match your goals, and get the results that you are looking for. Because isn't that what we're all trying to do with all parts of our lives? I think so. But alas, there are many things that are a distraction to us accomplishing those things. And today we're going to talk about some of the things that are not a distraction. Some of the things that have very high value in you thinking about in terms of your marketing, but I mean also in terms of how you look at how you approach business, how you look at how you approach relationships. That could be your personal network. It could be your a partner you're looking for, or in your parenting team. Like, who knows? It can be used in all sorts of scenarios, which is kind of the thing I love about the show. Because when we talk about foundational things, we talk about things that are foundational to humans. And if humans are going to work, those are also the things that are going to come to life. So we're going to talk about some of them today. And you might have been like, the 3 C's. There's a lot of words that start with C. If you read my post about it, I did call out the 3 C's, but we're going to talk all about them today. So you don't have to have memorized them. Also, we have the lovely Baily with us today, who, I mean, she didn't invent the words that start with C, but she's brought them together in this meaningful way from a 3C perspective that we're going to talk about today. And so if you are joining us in the audience today, would you please let us know you're here? Because I know you guys are watching and listening, and you're just like, dum, 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 dum. Like, put your name in the chat. Let us know that you're here. Because we've got marketing experts that are watching. We've got people in different types of arenas, business psychology, the physiologists, people who just like humans who know stuff about stuff, and your voice is valid in the conversation. So get it in the conversation. Today's your day, folks. Today's your day to get into the conversation. So just post a little chatty chat in the chat box. Let us know you're here and ask us any questions you have about the 3 C's or stuff that comes up, or any insights you have, experiences that you have. What's worked for you? What hasn't worked for you? Share it in the chat. It makes the conversation more robust for everyone. So please do that. Look, Baily's setting a very good example by being in the chat herself. Now she's in 2 places at once, which is crazy. You're just in one place. Put your name in the chat. Just kidding. Love you all, even if you want to just sit there and consume today. You might be in a meeting. Who knows? Maybe don't spend too much time on this if you're in another meeting. Focus there, and then this can be background noise. Or you can watch it on replay later. That's enough of that. Let's get into the conversation. So, Baily, can you tell us a little bit more about you and why? Let's just learn a little bit more about you and maybe what made you so aware of the 3 C's instead of talking about why they're so important to you, because I'm pretty sure that's going to manifest throughout the conversation.
Yeah, I can't help myself on that part. I'm Baily. I'm a connection strategist, but I've always gone by the title professional friend maker. And it's primarily because it's been woven through every job I've ever had. And prior to working, every club I've been part of, every community I've been part of since I was like 5 years old. And it's shown up in different ways, that skill set, that desire to connect with people and make friends. When I discovered business development and partnerships, I was like, wait, this is that, but paid. That's so amazing. So it effectively means I teach people how to build, nurture, and leverage relationships to fill in the blank. If they're a parent and they're seeking parental support or friends or advice or just commiseration, great. You can make friends for that. If you're an entrepreneur and you're trying to grow your business and get the word out, you can make friends for that. If you're in a career or a day job and you're trying to get a new job or get a promotion or whatever, all roads lead back to relationships and the people in your life, because nobody does anything fully alone. Even the people that you think are these outstanding all-stars, like LeBron and Oprah, are not just LeBroning and Oprahing all by themselves. They have massive teams of people. And there is truly like no Olympic athlete, no celebrity, no high-powered CEO that does it by themselves. So I think it's really important to just put that out there to begin with, because I think especially in America, there's this concept of rugged individualism, and that we're all meant to be just pulling ourselves up by our bootstraps and figuring it out alone. And I think that holds so many people back from succeeding, because they're trying to do it all by themselves. So my mission in life is to teach people how to actually build, nurture, and leverage those relationships so they can be supported.
Okay, so before we even jump to the 3 C's, I'd like to ask a question about that, because I feel like there are lots of different ways to make friends, and probably the most effective way to make friends is based on who you are and not just someone else's way of making friends. And so when you are working with someone in that capacity, Baily, what are some of the things that you help them reframe? And so, like, this isn't just about me teaching you Baily's way to make friends.
Right.
This is about me teaching you how do you make friends and how you can harness that for your purpose. So 1, have you seen that? And 2, how do you like readjust that expectation?
That's a perfect segue into the 3 C's, because those exist as a mechanism to building, nurturing, and leveraging relationships, regardless of how you go about that. So to start off with community, I talk about curating community. How you do this is entirely up to you. I have recently discovered that although I've been an extreme extrovert my entire life that has thrived in events and big, rooms full of people, never had a problem raising my hand in class or being the one to speak up, I have somewhat gone really more towards the introverted side of things in the last 5-6 years. And so now when I find myself in a traditional circumstance in which I would have ordinarily been in the middle of things and introducing myself and being the life of the party, I don't really want to do that anymore. I find myself being oh, can I just stand in the back and talk to one person until it's okay for me to go home? But online, I am thriving at building new relationships and curating community. So I say that to tell you, however you feel most comfortable doing it is all good. But what it means to curate community is effectively grow your network with people that you want to be part of it. These are potential new friends. These are potential new connections. It's really the top of the funnel, right? So curating your community could look like joining some virtual circles. It could look like going to an in-person event. It could look like asking your friends to connect you to their friends, which is how you and I got connected. And so curating community is just bringing in more people that you could potentially connect with, which is the second C, connection. That's the nurturing part of things. So once you've built this community, you've brought in these people that you might be able to connect with. Now the next stage is nurturing those relationships. This is where you actually get to see, are you my person? Are you somebody I want to have part of my community? Are we aligned? What's in our overlap, right? I have my, my handy Venn diagram that I keep on my body at all times, because I'm always seeking the overlap between me and the people around me. I think that's how one connects. And I will say, Tracy, your LinkedIn profile made it so easy for me to find our overlaps, because you laid them all out. And I was like, ooh, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We have 10 overlaps just from her bio. So having it be easy for people to connect with you and to see what those overlaps might be is also really good, but we could talk about that later. And then the third C is collaboration. And it could be anything from what you and I are doing right here, where we're collaborating on this LinkedIn Live, or it could be me putting it out there saying, I'm looking for clients in this area who can help me. And those people in my community with whom I've connected with and nurtured those relationships coming through and saying, oh, let me introduce you to these 5 people. So the collaboration part is the leverage part of the build, nurture, leverage relationship cycle. And that's where the rubber meets the road. That's where it's okay, we're in this together. How can I support you? And how can you support me? So all of those phases are completely adaptable and flexible based on your interests, your desires, your time, your energy levels, your comfort level, your goals. So it is not a one size fits all approach. It's definitely not the Baily model of making friends. It's here is how you can best go about bringing new people in, deepening those relationships, and supporting and being supported.
Oh, okay. So let's start with the concept of curating the community, because this seems like step 1. And let's not hop to leverage before we've done step 1. How about?
Bingo.
So I think a lot of times, so I often talk about default communities. And in our lives, we've often been presented with default communities, these things being like our family. We are born into a family. That is a default community. Did not choose it. We live in a neighborhood. While you might have chosen your house, you probably didn't pick and choose each one of your neighbors.
Definitely not.
Even like in a school, religious groups, right? Like there are things that you at offices, right? You get hired into a job and then you have this default community of people. And I think often we are programmed to think that that is what community feels like, but you're talking about a different level of community. Am I right?
Yeah, exactly. But those default communities are incredible jumping off points, right? You're already there. It's the easiest place to start. And it's interesting because I've been having this particular conversation a lot lately around not overcomplicating meeting new people. Because we often think we must go somewhere to meet people. We must go to a networking event to network. And it's just not 100% accurate. You can start with the communities you're already in. So your default communities, look around. I think something that people often get wrong about meeting new people or expanding their community is we often see one side of people. So if you met somebody, like if they're your neighbors, you likely only know about their personal life, if you even know that much, right? You likely only know that they have however many kids and drive this car. And like maybe you know something about their work, but probably not unless you've taken the effort. And vice versa, if you're in the office with these coworkers, you might know very little about their personal life. And so I think one of the easiest ways to curate a community with what you've already got going on is to get to know the other half of the people in your life. So start with the people you already know and flip that coin over and see what's on the other side, whether it's their work life or their personal life. And that starts to lead to deeper relationships and new connections, because through people, you meet new people. So great. Start with your default communities.
It's true. I mean, I went to my neighbor's birthday party and they are teachers. So they have a like completely different network of people than I have. And I met a whole bunch of new people, and I'm curious by nature. So I love to meet new people. But this is really interesting because I do think this is something I've experienced personally with like the friendship arena is that people have these very specific roles that people are allowed to have, right? So like if I call you neighbor, then this is how you function in my community. If I call you friend, then this is how you function. If I call you coworker, this is how you function. And there's this like safety zone where we said like, well, and I mean, okay, let's ask about this too, because you're probably not curious about all of your coworkers or all of your neighbors. So does that also, I feel like that can also help you kind of notice a little bit like who you've already decided are your people and who are not your people?
Yes, correct. And so this goes into the curation piece, because obviously default implies you just got what you got, right? It's a mystery box. You opened it up. Congratulations, these people are inside. But you don't have to take everybody out of the mystery box, right? Like you can say, oh, I like what I see. I'd like to see more. Right. And you can decide, you can tell. I think most people have a pretty good sense of like who their people might be. And of course, there's so many layers that can keep us from really knowing the real person in front of us. But I think that you generally have a pretty good sense of like, I like that person enough to dig a little deeper. And so even if you're not out just actively seeking new connections in a very highly curated place, you can still say like, I want to go a little bit deeper here. It's like, if you got a packet of seeds and they were just random seeds, you have no idea what was in there, and you just threw them all on the ground and you start to see them poking through and you're like, ooh, is that rutabaga? Okay. I'd like to go ahead and pour a little bit extra.
I would have no idea if rutabaga was popping through the ground.
Nor would I, but it is a thing, right? And it's like, or if I see, peppers poking through, I'm like, ooh, not a pepper gal. I'm probably going to let those be and just focus on my tomatoes over here or my rutabaga. So yes, you can very much be intentional, and you should be intentional about where you're investing your time and frankly, your curiosity in other people.
Yeah. Well, and this is something I say a lot about, like revealing parts of you that you feel good about talking about. Like I was thinking about this even as I took a sip of my tea, because I have a Harry Potter cup today, and like the giantest cup that I've ever seen before, if you're only listening. And it's so interesting. Like, and I have like R2D2s all over my office. And when someone notices that and they're also a Star Wars fan, and we could like talk for half an hour just about
connection
R2D2,
point,
right?
Right there.
And so like, when you can reveal these little things about yourself, they don't feel quite so risky. Like I've got a map of Middle Earth behind me and I have a stack of books, right? So like people can be like, oh yeah, you probably like that if it's in your background, right? And it's a safe talking point for me. Like I don't have to, I mean, if you are out there and you would like to challenge me at Harry Potter trivia, I would love that, because no one will even play me. No one will even play me anymore. But like, I want that, right? Like we're giving people opportunities to connect on something that's not scary to talk about, that is fun, and we don't have to, we're not trying to prove our worth or anything like that. It's just connection points. And I think this is what you're referencing in my, like, because in my banner, I remember I'm like, well, there's lots of parts of me, right? I don't want this profile to just speak about one part of me. I'm many things. So I want to so I go on Canva and I'm like, mosaic template, right? Canva must have one. Nope. I had to make that from scratch and it's annoying. But if you want one, I can send it to you and you can use mine. But like, there's lots of, I'm a mom and I'm an artist and I like Lego and I like nerd stuff and I'm an athlete, and there's like a whole bunch of parts of me. And only one part of that is that I'm a marketing advisor, right? And I actually, so I remember seeing this LinkedIn post, actually, a really good friend of mine who's been on the show, very good expert of storytelling, was talking about how the 40-second pitch is dead. And instead, what you need to do is make a 12-second pitch. And I was like, I mean, he has many good facts about this. And if that feels like something you want to try on, I would highly encourage it. But what it made me think was like, I'm not interested in being friends with someone who's only interested in giving me 12 seconds to talk about work stuff. I'm just not interested in that, right? Like, and even if you only gave me 12 seconds, I'm going to talk about authenticity, not how that manifests from a work perspective, right? So like what are we giving our time for? Like, are we creating space? Are we creating time? I remember also having, I reached out this lady and I was like, oh yeah, we were chatting. Or like, do you want to have a coffee chat? And she was like, are you interested in buying stuff from me? And I'm like, I don't know. I haven't talked to you yet. She's like, I only do 7-minute coffee chats, and they're only for people who are interested in buying. And now you know
chat. You're not.
I know, that's what I said. Like, now I know I'm not your people, and we don't have to keep going in that direction. But even that, right? Like, sometimes I think we're afraid to reveal those types of things because we're afraid of what other people will think of that. But like, I'm really glad that she said that, because then I'm like, I don't even have to bother going down this path of having more LinkedIn conversation with you, let alone like a chat. And so like, that saves me time, that saves you time. We get to build the relationships in the way we want to build relationships, and we win. And it's, I'm going to hop into the comments quickly for some chats here, because Dan is sharing, I think this is why we all need interesting hobbies. It makes for more interesting conversations. And I think we can be very judgy about our concept of what's interesting, right? I think a lot of times we would be like, well, I would never share that because that's not interesting. Or what if I tell people I'm a Harry Potter fan? They're going to think I'm a nerd, or that I'm childish, or that like I don't really care what they think, because I'm a Harry Potter fan. And if you're a Harry Potter fan, then we can be friends. And even if
you get it, you get it.
Right. Okay? We can be friends, because you're probably a Lord of the Rings fan. But like, this is what I love a lot of saying here. The multi-passionate comes out to play. And it is easy to tell when it's not aligned, right? Like but it's easy to tell when it's not aligned when we create enough connection points, right? So is this also something from a like connection point perspective that you're looking at when you're talking about curating that community component?
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with realizing that your specific interests are not in the overlap together. Like, you know what I mean? I think what I would take away from understanding more about your like fantasy sci-fi interests is that, oh, she's probably got a very creative, curious mind. And she loves to dream big and like have, like she's not all just type A, busy. Like she likes to escape as well. So even if I'm not a super fan of those things, I can appreciate those characteristics about you. And I think that, and it doesn't even have to be a hobby. I literally last night started painting for the first time in my life because I'm like, I would like a creative outlet. But I think so often, especially millennials, we have monetized the hell out of every hobby and interest, and it's just been part of the culture, right? Yeah. So I think a lot of us are a bit like, not burned, but nervous about hobbies being like a thing that you must have because we're like, who has the time for the hobbies? So your connection points can be, oh yeah, this is the kind of book I like to read. I'm more of a podcast person versus music or whatever it is. Like your personality traits are what's in the overlap to your values, your way of thinking, your way of being in the world, your dreams, your goals. Like, yes, what do you do on the weekends is a great question. But if you have kids, the answer is not always indicative of the person you're talking to.
I sit at my kids' sports games all weekend.
That is not my choice of, fun time, but I do it because that's my life as of right now, right? So I think when people ask, what'd you get up to this weekend? I'm like, don't take this as a measure of what I wish I got up to this weekend. This is just the state of my life currently. So, there's no right answer for what connection points can be. I like what you said at the very beginning of this part of the conversation around like, what are you comfortable sharing? It does not have to be this deep, dark, vulnerable thing that you share. It can be, oh yeah, I used to play lacrosse and I used to be on a dance team. I haven't done either in a while, but like, I really used to love that. And then that might open up a door for a conversation to continue.
Right. Well, and I think to me, this is just like, be yourself, right? If you just be yourself, then you will often reveal something, right? And like the way you dress, the way you talk, the topics you talk about, what's in your background, what have you. But I think there's a lot of people too that have an inherent difficulty in being themselves. So
that was going to be my next point, Tracy.
How does that inhibit the curation of community?
Truly, I think step one, prerequisite, is getting to know who you are as a person, some self-reflection. And that's from like, yes, who are you? What are your likes and your dislikes? Not what have they always been, but what are they now at this point of your life, right? Like even when I was thinking about, okay, what are my connection points right now? I could go back to high school and talk about the fact that I used to be an athlete, but that no longer really represents me today. Like the things that represent me today will likely also not be the same in 5 years from now. So I think the part of connecting with others that people want to just skip right over is the connecting with themselves piece. And, my new podcast comes out in a couple of weeks and it's called Seeking the Overlap. And it's about creating a more connected world, one conversation at a time. But I ended up adding a couple of interviews to my guest interview list this year after finishing recording, because I was like, I'm not talking nearly enough about how to connect with yourself first. So I'm front loading the season with episodes about that, because I think it is so important, not only to like surface your connection points. If you haven't given thought to like, who am I? What do I like? That is going to be harder and you're going to stumble. And then you're going to probably feel bad about yourself, thinking there's nothing interesting about you, which is just, you need to bubble it to the surface. It also helps you figure out what it is that you're trying to do by connecting with other people, because there should be a reason. Like having more friends can be a reason, but like, why? Are you feeling lonely? Do you feel like you've outgrown your current friends? Are you wanting new experiences in life? Like get to the core of the bigger thing that you think you want so that you can be intentional about the kind of people you bring in, because that's where the curation comes into play. I have a very clear criteria for the people that I welcome into my first degree circles, which is they must be curious, they must be kind, and they must be generous. And like, I don't care what you do in your life and in your work and all of that. If you're not those three things, we're probably not going to mesh very well. And I'm probably not going to refer you business, and I'm probably not going to connect you to other people or my friends, because sorry, that's my criteria. So I identified that that was important to me. And right now I know that as I'm growing my business, I'm looking to get in front of well-aligned human beings who can help me grow my business. So when I'm connecting with new people, that's always in the back of my mind. And it just helps me be more specific and strategic with how I'm spending the very limited free time I have to connect with other people.
I think this is an important reminder, because I think a lot of times we assume we have lots of time. Right? Or maybe we don't assume we have lots of time. I have a theory that you have as much time as you think you have. So if you have lots of time, then you have lots of time. If you don't think you have lots of time, then you won't have lots of time. But like, all of us have the same amount of time in a day. Let's say we want to get 8 hours of sleep, right? Then we have 16 hours a day. We don't have 24 hours. We have 16. And if you're a parent, then you're parenting a whole bunch of those hours. So it's not like just spare time to just do whatever we want, right? How are we being specific and intentional with the things that we're doing? If we are trying to build connection, why are we trying to build connection? I feel like this is where so much of the quote unquote connection advice on social media loses, because you get to the point where it's just someone saying connect with 25 people a day. You know, but that's not
so empty,
right?
What?
Like, and then
Why?
people are like, it feels so bad, but I know I have to just do it. And I'm like, you don't have to just do it that way.
Right.
I'm not saying that's bad. It's not bad to connect with 25 people a day. It's not bad I mean, it's good to connect with more people on an ongoing basis. But one, it doesn't have to be 25 a day. Who picked that number? Two,
Arbitrary.
like, how do you like to do that? Do you like to spend time every day connecting, or do you like to spend a chunk of time a week connecting? I don't know, right? Only you know. And then when we look at those types of things, one, our why, but also our how would I do that? How would I curate? How have I historically curated community? And how could I do that if I'm doing it in a different space, right? Like maybe I've been very good at doing that at church, but now I'm trying to build my own business and I quote unquote don't know how to do that. Well, you do. You know how you build connections with people. Your intention and the purpose behind building connections might not be different, but how you do that is still the same. So let's move that into the cultivating connection piece, because I also feel like this is a section where we don't give it its due diligence, or we don't give it enough time, effort, energy. We just say, hey, okay, well, now I'm connected to you, so you should be ready to buy something from me.
Yep, I agree. It's probably the most neglected of the three, of building, nurturing, and leveraging. The nurturing is the most neglected. And it's funny because I see the building and the leveraging, certain people go to one of those, right? Like some people love just getting out there, meeting new people, and they like collecting people, right? They like growing their network and like connecting with people on LinkedIn or getting followers. And other people don't put in the time or effort to like build relationships and then nurture them before they start asking for things, like the people that slide into your LinkedIn DMs and are like, hi, I'd love to be connected so that I can sell you this thing. It's like, you just jumped right over the middle piece, didn't you? You barely even hit the build part. Like, my goodness, I have whiplash, and this happens daily. And you can smell it a mile away, like truly. So the nurturing part, I think the reason people probably get hung up on it is it can feel like, oh, this is going to take forever. I'm going to have to, I need to have 5 to 10 meetings with somebody before I can ask them for. That's not even it. It's like the nurturing part almost has to be totally separate from the transactional part, or it should just not be transactional at all. And if you've curated your community with people that you're genuinely curious about and interested in getting to know, this is the fun part. This is the dating. Once you've been like, oh, I like you, let's go on a second date. This is the second date through, we'll say, committed relationship, right? Like, this is the part where you get to meet each other and get to know each other and support each other in a very like casual way. I mean, you and I, Tracy, we've had like 4 virtual coffee chats now. And I think the first 2, we didn't even mention work in the slightest. We just like, we're off to the races the moment we got on those calls, and we went like triple overtime what we had scheduled because we just couldn't shut up. And yes, that's maybe an extreme version because not everybody is going to be the kind of person that you can't hang up from, right? There are some people where you're like, oh my God, it's been 7 minutes and we have 23 to go. What am I going to be talking about? So look, let that be your guide too. If you're finding like, okay, this is not going anywhere, it's okay to like let that one just do its thing without putting a lot of effort in. So what nurturing a relationship can look like is setting up time to keep chatting. Tracy has my virtual coffee chat Calendly link. She uses it when she wants, and we almost always have something scheduled like for a month out, which is awesome because it's like, oh my God, has it been a month already? What's going on with you? So
and if we have to cancel, we cancel it, and it's fine because we know we'll talk again soon.
Exactly, but it's on the calendar. And I think that's a really important thing I've recently identified is like relationships need frequency to go deeper. And there are, talk about, what did you call them? Your, the communities, your default communities.
Yeah.
Default communities tend to come with built-in time to see the same people regularly. So whether that's your church or you're in a professional networking group that has recurring events, or it's your family, or it's your school kid, your kid's school drop off, like there are built-in opportunities to deepen the relationship. If it's online and you don't have any of those built-in opportunities, or you met somebody and you're like, I'm interested in them, but like, we're never going to bump into each other accidentally again. You have to make the time. And that's what Tracy and I do. We make the time to connect. We never know what we're going to talk about each time we get on the call. It's probably dependent on what happened 30 minutes prior to our call for both of us. And that's great. So you have to have those opportunities to deepen it. On the very easy level, you can nurture the relationship by supporting them online. So whether that's subscribing to their newsletter or downloading their podcast or, sharing their post or commenting, like there are so many teeny tiny little ways that you can be nurturing your network and the people in it without taking much time. So think on a very grand scale of like, let's get on a call once a month, to a very small scale of, I'm just going to be on the lookout for them online and like nudge them along and make sure they know that I see them and I support them and I'm going to send people their way or whatever it is that their goals are. But you got to put in the effort.
Mm-hmm. And okay, so there's two things I want to ask on this topic before we move to the next one. And first one, Alana is sharing here. I nurture a lot and tend to overextend that aspect actually. I'm working on actually taking these relationships to the next level. So I feel like there's a group of people, maybe it's my fellow servant leaders that fall into the category of placing very high value on the nurturing, but then feel like, well, I have like such a good relationship with these people. I don't want to ask them for something, right? Like this has just been such a good value exchange. I don't want to ask them for something. And it's interesting because I have definitely been in that position along my journey, but I also remember having a conversation with one of my community members, and everything he was sharing was just all of the things that I help with. And I was just like, I would be remiss to ask you, do you want help with that? Because I mean, this is what I do. And he thought about it for a moment. And then he was like, yes, I do. And so I think there's also, I mean, I don't believe in skipping right to leverage, but I feel like it also can feel a little easy, maybe especially if you like relationship building, to get stuck in the connection stage without moving to leverage. So do you have any tips for people who happen to get stuck there?
I will say this. Again, it goes back to clarity around what you're doing. Why are you doing any of this? And, Alana, I would say to you, like, I guarantee you, whenever we are nervous about the next phase or about making the ask or, taking it to the next level or whatever it is, it's likely because we're nervous about rejection. And I'm solidly in that exact place of like, I love building and nurturing, leveraging. I'll get around to it eventually. I'll get there, right? Because it's like, you don't want to sully the relationship, or you don't want to make them think that this was all a long con to getting them to give you money, right? However, in a professional context, and for all my service-based entrepreneurs out there, I see you. In a professional context, if what you are doing as a service and in your business can support somebody else, which I'm guessing it does, given the fact that it's your job and it's your company, it's your business, then by hesitating or not letting them know what it is that you do that could support them. When you see an opening, like Tracy did, like when you hear what you're hearing and you're like, oh, I do that, right? Like that's literally my job. That's what I do. It is more selfish to sit on that information and let them continue to suffer than it is to say, you know what? I actually do that. If you ever have any questions, like I offer this as a service, like here's a link or whatever, or I know somebody who does this. Like if you heard somebody that you've been building a relationship with say that they need a new roof and you happen to have a roof company, you're not going to go, oh, I could never. No, you're going to want to help them fix their freaking roof, right? Like come at it from that angle. And again, remember that if like part of you growing this beautiful curated community is to grow your business and support people in a bigger way, don't let that go to the wayside out of fear that you'll be rejected or you'll come off as like sleazy. Like there is a very clear difference between I've been asked it this way before. Like, how do people know you're not using them versus like asking for support or offering support? And I think the answer goes into how have you built and nurtured the relationship up into this point, right? Like the people that slide into your DMs and immediately come at you, they've done none of the work. They've done none of the genuine connection piece of it. So it feels very bad. But if you've been connecting with somebody over time and like nurturing that relationship by you offering them a solution to one of their problems, that's not sleazy. That's not using them. That's saying, hey, I have a solution for a problem. Take it or leave it. And not taking it personally if they're like, oh, thanks, but no thanks. Like, try and remove your ego as much as you can, which is really hard when you are your business. I feel that all the time. I'm very sensitive to rejection. And so I completely feel you. And recognize that if somebody makes you feel bad for like offering support or making an ask, then again, they're probably not somebody that's going to be a good long-term member of your community anyway, right?
Yeah. It always makes me think of the Dr. Seuss quote: the people who mind don't matter, and the people who matter don't mind.
Exactly.
If you make an offer and they don't think it's helpful, they'll let it go, and you can let it go, and you can have a relationship still, and it's fine. So that was one of the other question I wanted to ask was about like the level of effort or the time invested in the nurturing phase, because I often share with people, I've had new clients within 30 days of meeting them. I've also had clients that I built a relationship with over 8 years.
Right.
Okay? So I feel like it's more related to your intention in the nurturing than necessarily the length of time, but maybe more like the intention and the effort that goes into that. So what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I want to draw a clear line of distinction between nurturing relationships and nurturing an audience. These are different things. So can one become the other? Absolutely. And in best case scenario, yes. But I will say this, there are a lot of people that I've connected with, even just this year alone, that are not on my newsletter. They've maybe never been to my website. They have a loose idea of what it is that I do, but not really. And there are other people that I meet and who immediately go in and like do all the things. They download the lead magnets, they get on the list, they subscribe to my podcast, they like consume the whole Overlap Collective, catalog, if you will. And so when we talk about nurturing relationships and that connection piece there, does it mirror like a funnel sort of like with marketing? Absolutely it does, because people are people, and with a marketing funnel you're basing it on people's psychology and their the way that people are nurtured into wanting to take an action or a next step. But the way that I'm talking about it is much more on a one-to-one level. And so I hesitate to say that like, okay, if you're meeting new people and that nurturing phase, like how long should it be? I think the nurturing phase is forever. Personally, it doesn't have to be like super concentrated in a matter of a couple weeks. I think that if you're meeting people with the express purpose of them becoming clients, then that should be in a different category than meeting people to add to your community for various opportunities, right? Like you and I were connected by Misha, and I think she just saw a lot of overlaps in what we do and our focus as entrepreneurs. And this is the first like quote unquote work thing that you and I have done together, many months in. And like that was never my express purpose from day one of meeting you. It was, you're cool. We have a lot of overlaps. Let's see where this goes. And this is just where it's meandered, and who knows where it'll go from here. But I think when it's like connecting and trying to leverage relationships from a client and, service provider perspective, I would just be careful about keeping those things clear to yourself so that when you're the other person, it doesn't suddenly feel like a bait and switch. Like, oh, wait, I thought we were connecting as people, not like I was in this long funnel ultimately to lead me to signing up for your program. Can that happen too? Yes. But just, I don't know, there is something there that I would just say, make sure your goals and your clarity is really locked in so that people don't feel like, oh, wait, I thought we were becoming like friends or connections, not like I was in a funnel and this was a long sales process. So it's a little tricky.
Well, and it's interesting too, because I talk to a lot of people who talk about doing business with their friends, right? Like, and I think what they mean by that is that they want to feel like they've invested in a relationship with people, and then you have a reason to trust me. You like my advice. I can help you with this. And so therefore I help you with that. And I think the point you make about being very clear about your intentions, but also creating the possibility for things to go where they go, right? Like, I don't know where it could go. It might go to the place where, like, hey, someone wants to ask me for help with something. And that's not because I put you into a funnel. That's because I have this nurturing way of being. And I think that's the clarity component, because I think that can help also when you're getting to the point where you might want to say something about how you can help in a scenario. Like Baily said earlier, like, people will know, right? Like if you've invested in this really, you're like, I'm saying this because I think I can help you. I'm not just trying to like get your money. But also I have to pay my mortgage. So like, if I'm going to do this, this is the cost associated with it, because I feel like we can also end up giving away a lot of stuff for free. Instead of moving into that leverage and the ask, we just like give. But the people who see value in doing that will do it. And the people who don't see value in doing that won't. But that doesn't mean that they don't see value in you and the relationship with you. It means they don't see value in doing that thing, and maybe even that thing right now. So in terms of how we're building, and again, like, this is all about your why. Right? Why are you building relationships? But also, this is a marketing show, right? So like the concept of having people moving through a funnel because we're relationship building is, I personally love. And I love that you said nurturing is forever, because I feel like from a marketing perspective, we're always like, we get a lead and then we nurture it for seven
touch points.
And then do you want to nurture this person or do you not want to nurture this person?
Well, and here's the other thing too. Like, I think that it is really important to remember that the relationships you build one-on-one, for me, the purpose in most of my professional connections, who almost always become personal, because that's a very thin barrier for me, if there's even one at all, is second degree connections make excellent clients. So your first degree connections, the people that you're building these relationships with, will often become your best referrers to your business. Okay. So when we take a marketing perspective on the 3 C's, you can think of it pure and simple. Like, I'm building a network that can refer me business, if that's what your goal is, right? If your goal is to grow your business and say you're a service-based provider and you're like, I want more clients, the way that I've always done that is by building, nurturing, and then leveraging my relationships as a means to get in front of people I don't know who my people do know. Right. Just like we're doing right here, right? Like, I just recently booked my, I think, 57th podcast interview in the last decade. I think almost 21 of them have been just this year alone. And that strategy for me is to get in front of audiences of people who I trust and who understand me. So most of the podcasts I've been on, I have a relationship with the host, or we've built a relationship and they trust me. I trust them. There's alignment there. So I know that like that relationship that I've built with that person is going to end up benefiting me in the realm of referrals and expanding my network to people who might want to buy something from me or hire me. Okay, so I just want to say that because I don't want people to think that the 3Cs and building, nurturing, leveraging relationships is purely meant to be like, well, now I have more friends and I have more connections and like maybe I can ask them to work with me, maybe I can't. Sometimes those people turn into clients too. I think my best clients have been people that I have a relationship with because they already get it. I don't have to make a sale. They know what I do and they're like, where do I pay? But the bulk of my clients and anybody that has paid me for anything are second degree connections. So they're coming from the relationships that I have built and nurtured through the years. And the leverage component in that scenario is my connections telling people in their communities about me, who then they come to me, they're pre-vetted, they're qualified, they already like me, even though they've never met me. They trust me because the person they trust trusts me. Like that is the true marketing power of the 3Cs.
Yeah. Well, and I always like to just say that it's about my reputation, right?
100%.
Like if I've built a relationship with you, you know me, you get me, right? And so if you like, I always ask for introductions based on vibe. And that's why Misha introduced us to. And like, you guys can tell, right? Like we vibe, right? And that's why we have monthly conversations as well.
Exactly.
We vibe and we generate ideas with each other. But when you are looking at it that way and you're like, well, the way I build relationships is how the world sees me, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's my that's whether or not like I would, if you like, because Baily, if you came to me and you were like, I want to be on your show just because I have a quote unquote similar audience to you and I didn't know you, I would be like, meh.
Yeah.
Right? I'm booked out until February. I don't know that I
exactly
really need that. Right? Like, but then there's people I talk to and I'm like, oh my God, you need to be on my show because this is a concept that nobody's talking about in marketing. And I don't want to talk about it. I want us to talk about it, right? Like, because now we are an us, we have a relationship and each one is different, but that is your reputation. That's your brand, folks. Like if your brand is what other people take away from you when you leave the room, that's your brand. Right. So we're not just talking about cultivating connection. Sounds nice. We're talking about personal brand building.
Through and other humans.
Right.
And how they talk about you when you're not around.
And do you want them to talk about you when you're not around? I mean, I've had some scenarios lately where like there was one person, like I wasn't at this networking event, but somebody talked to two different people at the same networking event that were like, do you know Tracy? And then she was like, well, now I have to know Tracy because like, it's not even just one person who said it, it's two people who said it. And so like I wasn't there and I didn't have to be there. That's the value of a reputation, right? I didn't have to go and pay the cover charge for that event and talk to
you didn't even have to get out of your cozy clothes.
Like, I did not. I got to sit at home. But not because I haven't done anything in the lead up to that, right? Like I have earned that in my relationship building with 100%. Those people. Okay, so before we run out of time, let's go to catalyzing collaboration because collaboration is one of my favorite words. And I think a lot of times when people think of leverage, they end up thinking that it's like very one-dimensional, right? Like I take this from you. You give that to me, right? Like it's a very transactional trade. And how does that look different or maybe feel different when we're looking at it from a collaboration perspective instead of a transactional perspective?
I think of it as an energetic exchange. I've always said like collaboration, there needs to be an even value exchange. And it's not always one for one in that exact moment, right? And I think as it relates to like, what are you doing here? Why are you trying to curate a community? Why are you trying to leverage the 3Cs to do what, right? The collaboration piece, much like the nurturing piece, those two can actually, like on the Venn diagram, that bubble between collaboration and connection, in that overlap right there is where the bulk of your time is spent with your really good connections, because you're forever nurturing the relationship through the collaboration too. And when I say collaboration, it has so many meanings to so many different people. But when I talk about collaboration, I'm talking about supporting each other. So you're supporting each other in something, whether that's coming together to be on a LinkedIn Live, or it's, oh, you've got a program launching, I'm going to add that to my newsletter this week, or, oh, I'm going to be speaking in this event. But if I end up connecting with anybody there that I feel like could benefit from your services, I'm going to connect them to you. And so a lot of the times people mistakenly think that collaboration is like, Baily and Tracy are now collaborating on this activation. And yes, that is a version of collaboration. Marketing partnerships and strategic partnerships are what I spent the bulk of my career doing. So obviously it's incredibly effective. It's that, and how are we continuously supporting each other's goals in a more specific and tangible way than casually like posting about somebody's something or sending people your way. So collaboration, like the catalyzing collaboration component of the 3 C's, is much more tangible. That is where there are asks and there are gives, right? And it is an energetic exchange. It could be it could be as formal as like an affiliate relationship that you're doing for one another. Whatever it is, it comes down to both parties kind of opting in and saying like, I want to support you in this way, or will you support me in this way? And they say yes. So from a career perspective, this could be, okay, I'm looking for a new job. Here's what I'm looking for. Who do you know? It's making an intro at a company. It's connecting you with a recruiter. It's something like that. So it's sort of the nurturing piece, but more tangible and more specific in a way. But those two have so many overlaps between them.
Yeah. Well, and this is like, I mean, it's, you know, when you hear these things, folks, when you're like, it's so simple.
Yes.
And I wrote down supporting each other's goals, right? Because
that's it.
I mean, it's pretty simple. But when you think about this from a marketing perspective, right? Often when we are looking at this and we're like, as a marketing team, we're responsible for like connecting with people, right? We want people to connect with the brand, and then we want people to like build that connection with the brand. So we're going to nurture them through that relationship. But I think the pivot point there often then is like sales, right? So we go through the first two and then we're like sales, and we switch from a relationship building perspective to a transactional perspective. And we don't really explore what does it look like to support each other's goals. Like, what does it look like for me to support the client? Yes, but what does it look like for them to support my goals? And have I even communicated from a brand perspective what my goals are, or what I'm trying to do?
There you go.
In this world? Often not. But also, like, one of the big, you mentioned affiliate programs, that about maybe not even that long, 3 years ago, affiliate programs were huge, right? And just like get all your friends signed up as affiliates, and then you'll have these channels of business.
Yeah, the Marie Forleo, the Amy Porterfields, like that was the business model.
Right. And the thing about it, I think that a lot of people experienced was that like, I don't actually have a reason to sell this for you. Right. Like, so I signed up to be an affiliate for free. Right. And like, maybe I've done the program and I like it. Right. So like, I'll be an affiliate, but like, there's no continued nurturing, right? There's none of the brand building, like show you my goals so we can align on the goals, which is step one. And so the fact that you have people contracted to be a partner or an affiliate is mostly irrelevant, because we've lost the sight as to how we're supporting each other's goals. Right. And this is something from a marketing perspective, I think is highly relevant, specifically in a partnership scenario, is that they're not our partner just so they can serve us, right? Like, how are we serving them? Do we even know what their goals are? Are they aligned with our goals, or did we sign them up as partners just because they accepted signing up to this free partnership agreement? That doesn't mean anything. And this relationship building is, I had a conversation recently about partnership building and how it can be like continually nurtured. Let's put it that way.
It must be.
But like, me sending you a monthly email is not me continually nurturing a partnership. It's not me asking you anything, right? So like, I don't understand your goals. I'm not actually building a relationship with you. So why would you even trust me with your goals, right? Like you need to trust somebody here in order for you to tell me what your goals are so I can create some kind of program that will allow us to create aligned goals and we can do stuff together. And then if you have multiple partners, like, are you doing that with multiple partners, or have you done that with one partner and then you assume that's the same for all partners? So you just programmed this so someone else can execute it, and then all of a sudden the program doesn't work, and you're like, well, this because we didn't do the things. We didn't do the build and the nurture. We thought about it for a minute, and then we took it offline and structured it, and we automated it, and we put it on our email, CRM and whatever, and it's doing it itself. It doesn't do that. An email program will never nurture something the way a person can.
No, it's like cutting flowers and putting them in a vase versus keeping them in the garden.
Right.
Like it ceases to be alive once you do that. Once you like copy,
I am using that example. Oh,
it's true. It's like, example. Sure, they're going to look pretty for a minute, but they're not going to last. Right. And so the challenge with affiliates is it does get lazy because you're trying to scale. And I think the scaling of it is what kills it. And it's not to say you can't do it in a really intentional, thoughtful way. But to me, a partnership or a collaboration is not easily replicable. Like it does require some customization based on goal alignment, like you talked about. And also, your reputation gets a little wobbly when anybody and everybody's out there selling on your behalf and you're not vetting those people. Like, that gets real dicey. So it can feel like, oh, this is the magic formula, affiliate marketing, as long as you're still being really thoughtful and intentional and, you know, making sure that the people out there talking on your behalf, are well equipped to understand, like, what is your reputation? What is your brand? What is the goal? What's the big purpose here? And not just like letting anybody and everybody be an affiliate. And also that there is some reciprocation with that person. Like, because payouts, like little payouts via, you know, your direct deposit once a month is not an energetic exchange.
I'm going to give you 10% of this $25 a month. And you're like, nice, $250. I can't even get a Starbucks for that anymore.
Exactly. So it's like, what is the energetic exchange? And if you can't identify what's in it for them outside of like some payouts, then it's likely not a good fit.
Yeah. Well, and I'm even thinking about this, like, as we're talking about it, right? Because if I was like, oh, if I have like Baily out in the world representing my brand, that feels good because we have similar vibe. We have a similar how we deal with people, right? Like, so if you're talking to somebody and they have a marketing problem, you're like, you should talk to Tracy because like, yes, yes. But like, this is the struggle I've always had with the BNI structure is just like, we're going to put one plumber in this group and then everybody's going to refer to this one plumber. Well, what if I don't like him, or what if he didn't work on my house and it was really bad, right? Like, I don't want to refer. I'm not going to refer. That's my reputation. If I refer someone to you, that's my reputation.
It's getting lazy again. It's getting lazy. It's like, check, we've got the one person now. Everybody fall in line and refer them. That eliminates the whole point of referrals. It's like, what are you doing?
Yeah. And yes, I think a lot of times we've tried to go with the easy button. And I think I can't think of a scenario off the top of my head where the easy button has actually turned into something better, except for Staples' marketing campaign about the easy button.
That's about it.
Because we know it doesn't exist, right? That's the whole reason why the marketing campaign actually works, because we know that's not a thing, right? It's not as easy as
the
just
joke.
That's the joke. The button. And it would be great, except it's not real, right? And I think this is the thing is, I mean, the concept we've explored here today are not revolutionary, right? The concept of building connections and community and nurturing, building relationships, it is not new. I think the frustrating thing for both Baily and I is that, like, why are we still not doing this? Right? It's pretty simple, right? It's 3 C's. And from a marketing perspective, I I mean, they're kind of double C's, to be honest with you.
I know.
Each of them
I
is
can't
like
get
double.
the alliteration. I just love it.
Yeah, I know. And it works really well. So I appreciate it too. But the point is that a lot of times we're looking at the whys behind doing these things. And if we know why we want to create this feeling of collaboration, because as a brand, this is what we believe in, right? So when we want that feeling of collaboration to exist in market, then like, how are we creating that? And it's not, it's as simple as asking ourselves that question when we have a campaign or when we have an idea or when the VP of marketing is like, we should do the same thing over and over again. And we're like, well, does that really match our brand value that's on our website of collaboration?
Somebody else wrote that than the person executing the campaign.
And so, I mean, actually, if you guys are interested about questions and how to ask these type of questions from a marketing perspective, I will have an article coming out later today that is precisely on that topic. But the point is that like, if we care about these things, then we should be asking questions about these things and how our marketing is turning into that, how our relationship is building into that, how our friendship making is turning into that, how our parenting is turning into that, right? Yes. I talk about my family all the time as a team because I love how that makes it, to me anyway, it makes it feel like we're here to collaborate, right? Yeah. You have your job and you have your job and I have my job and they're different jobs, but we have to collaborate to make these things work and to get us where we're going. And if we don't collaborate, like things don't happen. Collaboration, I think, for me is like core to performance. And if we're talking about performance, even from, again, pick your poison of why you're building your network, but there's a performance goal associated with that. You want leads, you want a network, you want referrers, like you want something, and it has to perform on some level. And if we're not collaborating, it's not going to perform on that level. And if we're not nurturing, then we're not going to get to collaboration, right? And if we're not building, if we're not finding and meeting new people, we're not going to get to nurture. So we need to do all the pieces. And I guess my takeaway for everyone would be, if you listen to this episode and you're like, yep, all these things make total sense, right? And we could be doing them. My question would be like, why are you not? Like, what's stopping you today? Yeah. Maybe it was the knowledge. Maybe it was the clarity of the alliteration that you needed. That'd be great.
You're welcome.
But like, what's stopping you? Is it time? We don't have enough time. People. We don't have enough people. Yeah. I promise you do. It's about choosing how to use your time, how to use your effort, how to use your energy. And I will tell you all, my friends, my marketing friends, you're all doing stuff that has no value to the organization. Don't take that personally from an ego perspective, but I've done it. I've done it myself. I'm sure I do it. And if I had someone else looking at it, they would be able to point it out to me. But like, dude, the marketing industry is full of efforts that are wasting everybody's time. They're wasting like potential prospects' time. They're wasting internal resources time. Like, let's not do that. Let's figure out what we're about. Okay? If the 3 C's is what we're about, how are we making sure all of this stuff is aligned with that? And go and do that. We've got time.
Just go and do it.
Just do it. I think that's what Nike says, right? Just do it.
I don't know. Something like that.
Something like that. Baily, thank you so much for sharing all of your lovely knowledge with us today. If people are interested about your services, where is the best place for them to find you?
Well, let me just put it in the chat right there for you.
That'd be great. Yeah, because Baily was great at being in the chat, as were Alana and Dan and mystery LinkedIn user who I'm not sure, who may be watching the replay because their connection is betraying them.
Yeah, I get it. But yeah, you can go to overlapcollective.com. That'll get you to my website where all the things are. But the 3 C's Digest is my biweekly guide to everything we just talked about. And it is overflowing with information and ideas and practical tips. So go check that out. You can subscribe on LinkedIn as well, so you can see all the past issues. I just published the 4th issue on Sunday. So go check it out.
Yeah, I am on the list and I will confirm that there is lots of good stuff in there. I'll be honest and say like there's a lot of stuff in there. I may or may not skim, but
look,
it is
that's the
totally
point of
worth
it.
a skim. It is worth
It's
a skim.
worth a
Folks.
skim. It's very digesty. It's very like resourcey roundup kind of thing. Pick your poison. Like, what do you need? I got a little something for everybody. So yeah, give her a check out.
Yeah, and if you liked the vibe of the conversation today, then connect with Baily, have a conversation, because you know she's all about connecting and nurturing relationships.
Yes. Please be my friend if you haven't already at this point in the rewatch, if you're not watching it live.
Oh, awesome. Baily, thank you so much. Thank you so much for
Thank
all
you,
our
Tracy.
amazing chat participants. Fun fact, folks, if you're still listening live, we have a double show week happening this week. So there will be another episode of the Crazy Stupid Marketing Show happening on Friday from a secret location, which I'm very excited about.
Ooh,
so
mysterious.
if you're available at the same time on Friday, you should check it out because it's going to be different but awesome. And maybe, just maybe, my guest will be in person with me.
Ooh, I wish.
Yeah, I know. Well, this person
One
is
day.
a little bit closer.
We'll reunite in person
to me.
one day.
We will. We will have a big, we should do like a crazy, stupid marketing convention.
Sold.
This is
Sign
big,
me up.
I think. Anyway, stay tuned for that, people. I just made it up just now. You will hear more about it in the future. Oh, Baily, again, thank you so much. Thank you, everyone, for watching. And until next time, permission to do you.